You're listening to international investment advisor Doug Goldstein on the Goldstein on Gelt show, the financial show where we'll talk about how you can make the most of your money. With all the confusing financial chatter bombarding you each and every day, Goldstein on Gelt will give you the practical information you want and need about living a financially stable life. Here's your host, money maven Doug Goldstein.
Okay, we are back. I'm very happy to have on the Goldstein on Gelt show Julie Deane from England, who is going to talk to us about a fabulous company which she founded called the Cambridge Satchel Company. Julie, a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on.
Though your company itself has made quite a splash in the world, really the story behind it is what I'd like to start with. Could you just tell us, how did you come up with this idea and how did you get to where you are today?
I think the first thing that I always say to people is I'm not what I would never have described myself as an entrepreneur. It was never something I intended to do. I was very happy being at home with the children. I was a full-time mum. And then when my children were 6 and 8 years old, I suddenly realized that my daughter was being bullied at school. And I worked with the school to try and make things better, but the situation wasn't getting resolved, and so I thought that, you know, at times like that, it's got to be your mum who sorts things out for you. So I talked to my mum as well, and we decided the thing to do was to look around for all of the schools and then pick what would be our absolute dream, something that would be worth striving for, and something that would be worth doing everything you possibly could for. So not something that was affordable, but slightly better, something that was an absolute dream. Mm-hmm. And so we looked around and we found the school, and I have 2 children, and so that was 2 sets of school fees. And so I sat down and worked out what I would need to earn before tax to pay those school fees. And then I picked myself up off the floor.
Oh, wow.
And thought, well, gosh, this is going to be a challenge, but, you know, I've promised my daughter that I'm going to do this, and I am going to do it. And I had a budget, and that budget was £600. And
sorry, your budget was £600 to start a business, or was that the cost of the school?
No, £600 to start the business.
Mm-hmm. What was the cost of the school?
The school is £15,000 a year per child.
Oh, my goodness.
So I think that if you look at it thinking, I have an investment to make of £600 and that's going to generate, after tax, £30,000 every year,
wow.
Then you'd get very sort of scared at it. But I think there's that single-mindedness that when you know you don't have a choice and this is what you're going to do for your child, then you look at it slightly differently, and I wasn't put off by it. And I just, I talked to my mum, and my mum said, well, I can't afford to pay the school fees, but I'm very healthy and I'm going to work at whatever it is you decide to do every day until this is done. And you know, bless her, that's what she's done.
Wow, what a great scheme.
We had this £600, and I think that everything starts with, you know, the one first step. And so I sat down and I had a cup of tea, and I thought, I'm going to think of 10 things that Julie can do to make school fees. And I made a list of 10 jobs that I thought I could do, 10 ideas of things. And then I thought, well, now I'm going to rank each one as to, you know, how much money it needs to start it. Will it generate enough, soon enough, to make it possible to send the children? What would happen if I was run over by a bus? It can't be something that only depends on me. And so I weeded them out until I came down to the last 3. And satchels was one of those last 3, because I'd tried to find a really well-made, traditional type satchel as a school bag for the children earlier on in the year, and they just weren't being made in the UK anymore. And so I thought, I can't be the only person who'd be interested, and hopefully there's enough people that it can make my dream come true.
So what were the 2 that lost?
There is no way I'm giving those away. That's my safety net.
Oh, I see. Next business. All right. Well, good for you for partnering up with your mother. You know, Julie, in my day job, I'm a financial advisor. I only do the radio gig once a week. And when I started on Wall Street about 20 years ago, I was partners also with my mother, and she had been a vice president at a major Wall Street firm. And I, frankly, really enjoyed not only learning from her, but simply working with her, because we had a similarity of mindset, and we took care of our clients the same way. What was it like working with your mother?
I think, I love working with my mom, because from day one we had exactly the same purpose. Our purpose was to get the children into that school. And so it wasn't that I was working with somebody else who had dreams of doing something entirely different. We were completely focused in the same direction, and that was really good. And the other thing I'd say is my mum has got more common sense than virtually anyone I come across. Okay. And so she didn't grow up in this sort of age where there's the internet and websites and all this kind of thing. And so whereas, we'd sit down and she'd say, well, where are we going to sell it? And I said, we're going to sell it all over the world. And everything was like, I need a website. And she didn't then straight away think, okay, we'll go and get a website designer. We need a logo. Go and get a graphic designer. It was all about keeping the overheads really, really low. And she always had this fantastic belief in me that she thinks I can do anything, which is marvelous to have someone like that in your corner. And so when I sat down and she said, well, you can do that. Mm-hmm. And you think, well, my mum really believes I can do that.
She must be right.
So she must be right. How hard can it be? We sell satchels, and we live in Cambridge. It's the Cambridge Satchel Company. Okay, that's the name done. What's the next box to tick? It's the logo. So we'll do that. I can use a computer, and I can't draw, but I'm sure there's enough images out there that I can work on. And so just step by step, I was able to do all the things that were needed to start the business. And the vast majority of those, I put into a search engine how to build a website, because £600, I needed that to buy my first samples. I was never going to be able to have a web designer do that. And it wasn't that difficult. And even to start advertising, I had one of those £50 sort of Google AdWords vouchers, and so I started off with that, and that sort of fell out of a magazine. And so I think you just have to be a lot more resourceful, but if anything, that makes you more effective.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we are talking with Julie Deane, who started a company not so many years ago called the Cambridge Satchel Company in order to pay the tuition for her kids to go to a hotshot school. But little did she know, I bet at the time, that the satchels that she was producing would be considered, in fact, according to The Guardian, a cult among 20-something people. So what were you expecting when you got started?
Well, I thought that it would be people like me who'd been, I had looked for them as a school bag for the children, something that would last, that would keep looking really good, and something that was plain enough that they could hang their key rings on and personalize it themselves and have it grow with them, rather than having branded motifs all over that they would grow out of and then want a new bag all the time. And so I thought it would be people wanting them for school, but it's turned out that that's just a really small part of our market. That
worked out well. So you were describing what you did with your mother, and frankly, it sounds to me as though being organized was what you really brought to the table. I've often told people that simply to be successful, organization is probably the number one skill that you have to have. A, is that true? And B, did you bring any other business experience to the table when you got started?
I think that it's absolutely true, because if you're organized, you keep on top of things and you follow through on things and you make the most of every opportunity and you don't drop the ball. And then even in the dealing with other people, whether it's the suppliers or whether it's the shops, I was selling to Urban Outfitters in America, and I was doing it from my kitchen. They had no idea that all of this was being done from my kitchen. And in the end, I'd been selling to them for quite a long time, for about 6 months, and the buyer in the States said to me, do you have a showroom in London? I said, no, I've got a kitchen in Fenditten, but you're welcome to come. Because that's the thing, if you're organized and professional, most of this was done distance selling, and we just gave the impression without, setting out to do so, but just because we were very on the ball, that we must have all these people behind us. But, it was me and my mum.
So if you were going to advise other women who maybe are listening to this and want to get ahead as well, what would be the first thing that they should do today if they want to begin to build their own businesses?
Well, I think that you need to realize that it's never, ever been a better time to start a business, because the internet means that you can reach people all over the world. And so even if it's something that might appeal to a small group of people, if you've got such a huge global audience, that makes it viable. And so don't be put off. And that's the other big thing, is don't be put off. This is something that's important to you, and there will be plenty of people around you that will say, well, if that was a good idea, somebody else would have already done it.
Right. What if you don't know about, are you a technology person? What if you're not an internet programmer?
I love gadgets. I do love gadgets. I studied natural sciences. I'm a bit of a geeky person. That's my background, which would make a lot of the people who knew me, particularly in the 80s, they'd find it unbelievable that I was listed in a recent list as one of the 100 most influential people in fashion, which is honestly unbelievable. And if you'd seen me in the 80s, you would think it was unbelievable too. But, don't be put off that maybe your background isn't in the area that you want to move in. If that's where your passion is, that is 100 times more important.
That sounds like a great bit of wisdom for everyone to take. Julie, we're just about out of time, but I just want to ask, how can people follow your work and learn more about the Cambridge Satchel Company?
Well, there are 2 ways. The first, I would say, is to get the picture of the story, and it'll only take 1 minute. If you go to YouTube and type in Julie Deane, D-E-A-N-E, you'll see a film that Google made about our story because they liked it so much. And then after that, if you want to learn more about what we're doing, then you can visit our website, which is www.cambridgesatchel.co.uk.
Okay, Julie Deane from Cambridge Satchel, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me on.
You've been listening to the Goldstein on Gelt show with money maven Doug Goldstein. Doug's weekly radio show is heard around the world, but if you miss it, you can download the podcast at www.goldsteinongelt.com. The Goldstein on Gelt show gives you up-to-date financial ideas so you can get on the path to financial freedom. If you'd like your questions answered on the air or off, send Doug an email to doug@profile-financial.com. It's your money for your future, so join Doug every week to build your wealth on the Goldstein on Gelt show.